Good evening, and we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but we want to be live on more Facebook pages, so we got to open this thing up and let it breathe just a little bit. That's the Mile High Huddle, and it's the Mile High Huddle podcast Facebook pages. We want to make sure we get all of them in here. So we hit everybody, even if it's just me in here tonight with Zack. So welcome in, everybody. This is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I am your guest host tonight, Scott Kennedy. Many of you know me from Broncos for Breakfast. We'll be doing Broncos for dinner with this guy over here, Zack. This guy over here, Zack Kelberman. He's a more familiar face to the evening crowd here. So appreciate Chad for letting me pinch hit tonight and come in, bring in the lefty. I guess that's more of a pinch relief pitcher. There we go. That's what I'm trying to spit out. But Zack, how are you doing tonight?
I am a little fatigued because we're days away from the draft, Scott, and it's not here yet. And it's like, okay, let's get it over with already. I'm tired of the rumors, tired of the speculation, tired of who's going to go to Denver and who's not. I want to see it play out, and we'll have some resolution, thankfully, in a few days.
I think I wrote today about another quarterback scenario with a different team, the phrase mercifully coming to an end.
Yes, 100%.
The speculation and all of this stuff that's been going on since Halloween will mercifully come to an end in just a few days. It's not quite like that with the Broncos. I mean, you don't really speculate with as much intensity over third round guys. You know, when your top picks are 67 and 68, it's like, who are they going to take? Oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait. It's a little different. But, you know, we've been saying for months now that, and we've been going through lists and lists of names that you can still get some really good players in that spot. And I know you had a story today about draft guys coming up of a quarterback that the Denver Broncos have been linked to from Purdue University, the Boilermakers. Some good guys coming out of there. Now we'll just go ahead and say, you know, the Drew Brees connection, of course. But what do you know? What I know you know because you had the story. So let's kick that off right here, and then we'll dive into the chat a little bit.
Yeah, so according to Peter King, he tucked this nugget away in his column today. The Broncos are expected to sniff around Aidan O'Connell, the Purdue quarterback, like Scott just said. He's a mid to late round prospect. I've seen grades varying from 4 to 5 to 6, but the Broncos are expected to show interest. He's 6'3", and 214, 215, two-time second team All Big Ten for what that's worth. He had about 9,200 yards, 65 touchdowns, 30 picks in 30 games. He's a developmental type, Scott, not going to ever overtake Russell Wilson for QB1 duties, but someone that Sean Payton can handpick and mold in his vision. It says to me that maybe Jarrett Stidham isn't so comfortable as the locked-in QB2.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. You need another one no matter what. So are you talking Jarrett Guarantano? So when you start asking the questions, could this be an upgrade on him? I think Stidham's pretty safe as your number 2 right now. Your number 3 that you're going to be bouncing in and off the active roster is Jarrett Guarantano, assuming, you know, that's going to stick. But when you're living in that world, you're never safe. You know, who was a kid last year that played for 14 different teams?
Oh, Josh Johnson, the legend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough. There's worse lives to have. I mean, he's not there digging ditches, but, you know, it's a tough life to try and have a family and get settled and kids when you're bouncing around 14 different teams in 14 years. That kind of might be the life that Jarrett Guarantano has. So you ask yourself the question, is this guy better than him? And I haven't watched. I can look at the numbers. You know, he had really good career at Purdue. Some of the things I like to look at are completion percentage, which was high. In 2021, it was 71.6. And I also like to look at touchdown to interception ratio, which wasn't that great, to be honest with you, Zack. Last year, it was 22-13. So less than 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio for a NFL level quarterback playing in today's game. I'd like to see those numbers a little bit higher, but again, there's extenuating circumstances there. I don't know all the story. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But if I'm asking questions, my question is this guy better than Guarantano?
I'll say the quiet part out loud. A lot of people are probably wondering who the hell is Jarrett Guarantano, and he's a holdover from the previous coaching staff. I think he signed a futures contract. But yeah, Scott's right. Temporarily, he's the number 3 quarterback, but most teams typically carry only 2 nowadays on the 53. So you figure Russell Wilson safe. I think you're right as well. Jared Stidham safe. It's going to come down to the last spot for maybe practice squad or long-term backup development. I look at O'Connell a lot like, not Drew Brees, same school, but a lot like Chase Daniel, where maybe not a high-end starter, but a high-end backup that it will be cost-controlled, young, and like I said, you can develop him in Sean Payton's vision.
Yeah, if you can get a nice backup, you can make a lot of money and not take the beating. It's not a bad job. They say it's the best job in the world is backup quarterback in the NFL, especially if you can do it for one team for several years. Like I said, having that job where you're bouncing around every year can be kind of tough. Now that the chat's opened up a little bit, the numbers are starting to climb. Let's say hello to some folks coming in, like Dylan Von Arx says, "What's up, Broncos country?" Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Share on all those platforms and subscribe if you have not already. Yeah, that's a big one. We're knocking on the door of 20,000 subscribers to Mile High Huddle. So that's going to be a big number. I expect to hit it here in the next month or so if things keep going because of help from guys like you. Jetty Splash coming in says, "I'm exhausted from all this trade and draft talk, plus the past couple of years memories, plus my all-out blitz on a low-carb diet." Man, the diet will get you more than anything. Someone actually called me out on this. It may have been Roderick or somebody. Was your coffee not strong enough? And I was like, dude, you nailed it. I actually kind of gave up caffeine for like 2 weeks. It was hell. It was hell.
Couldn't do it.
I had to make some apologies. I had to call up and apologize to some of my friends that I was not very nice to and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I was an a-hole. You're right. I was. So apologies. That'll get you. So God bless you, Jetty. Stay healthy, my friend. Stay healthy. David McElrath coming in green. The icebreaker, getting us broken on Super Chats. Thank you, sir. He says, good evening, Chad, Zack, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Buckham times 2, MHH for life, and Denver Broncos for life. Buckham right back at you, dude. So appreciate it, David. Good to see you again tonight. And Tanner Hulse coming in orange, Broncos orange.
Thank you, Tanner.
Just stopping in before the show to show some love. Well, thank you. Miss being able to catch live, but always watching on my way home from work. Well, Tanner, if you have any questions that you burning desires, topics, or anything, make sure you leave them in the comment section after the fact. And that goes for anybody listening. We get more views on demand on YouTube than we do live. So leave a comment. We're happy to ask any questions or to answer any questions or to, maybe if we didn't quite say something the way we wanted to, it's nice to be able to think about it a little bit longer and give you a written answer to try and explain ourselves or whatnot after the fact, Zack.
I'm just thinking about how you quit coffee for 2 weeks. I literally could not do it. You guys wouldn't like me as a podcaster, as a writer, anything. That's something that I depend upon. But going back to Jetty, years ago when I was like in high school, I did the Atkins diet, and I believe that's low carb, and it's a fad diet for a reason. The name is in the name, fad, because when I stopped and I ate normally, I put all that weight back on and twice as much. So I would suggest, I'm not a nutritional expert, but calories in, calories out. Jetty, don't kill yourself. Don't go overboard. Everything in moderation. I think you'll be okay.
So just be healthy. Moderation's the food's the hard part for me. I've a lot of I haven't had a drink in 25 years. I was very addictive personality, and you can't just give up food. I can go cold turkey on a lot of things. I can quit caffeine. I didn't enjoy it, but I can. I quit nicotine. I can quit alcohol, but you can't quit food. So once you start, you're like, all right, I'll eat. Well, now I'm just going to keep eating until I'm just freaking stuffed and I've overeaten. It's hard. It's hard.
I'm a snacker too. So that's my biggest problem is like I'm a grazer, not really a big meal eater. So eating little things throughout the day always kills me.
Well, and it's even harder in this career where you're working out of the house a lot.
Exactly.
And there's always food around. It's tough. So God bless you. Be safe out there, Jetty. Let me see. William Catalano comes in. He says, I kind of shut off around this time, especially after the draft. All the news stories get obnoxious, and 80% of them aren't even true. So I'm not directing this towards MHH. It's their job to. And we hit on those type of things, but we try to acknowledge it. That's what's nice about this platform. I'll throw up a clickbait article and I'll admit, this is a little clickbaity. I know, but this is what I actually think. Got an article about a trade rumor that's going around from Bleacher Report. Is it going to happen? No, but we'll tell you why or why not. But this is what people are talking about. And thank you for clicking on it. It helps pay the bills and keep the lights on.
That's exactly it. I think it's an ugly truth to the profession. We might not want to cover it, but we kind of have to cover it, especially if it's in a dead period like now. Any news would suffice, and it's kind of our job to talk about it and break it down, like Scott said.
So let me come in through and say hello to some more folks that are coming in. Adam Strace of What's Up Bronco Maniacs. Dominic Martin coming in. So hello, my entire MHH family. That's all, y'all. I saw some Aidan O'Connell highlights, and I like his play style. Thanks for the article, Zack. Hello, Chad and Scott and Scout Kennedy. That's me. I go by, I worked for scout.com for like 15 years and it just worked. I was there before Twitter existed. So Scout Kennedy is a social media handle, just kind of works. So appreciate you being here, Dominic. As we have opened up the Facebook pages, want to say hello to some folks on Facebook too. Michael Ranchio coming with some stars. Says, good evening, Scott. Zack and Scott on the Mile Huddle podcast. Go Broncos and Buckham. Want to say hello to Amy and Ernie as well. Broncos country only. Todd seems to be happy, I would think. Oh wow, Zack and Scott tonight. We haven't done this in a while, Zack. I was thinking about it. There was a while there where it was me and you, like, twice a week for a month, but we haven't been on together in a while.
And we're picking up right where we left off, man. It's always a seamless transition. So I'm happy that, Todd's I think he's entertained. I think he's happy by this. I'll assume so.
Yeah, the numbers they're all going up. There's not a lot of not that guy again. So, Adam Strange, he has a question. He says, "What position has the thinnest depth?"
Tight end.
I'll let you hit this one first.
I think it has to be. That's the first thing that came to mind when you only have Greg Dulcich, Alberto, does he really even exist? And Chris Manhurts, who's a blocking tight end. That's pretty thin to me. And the Broncos, Scott, haven't called you Chad yet, have worked out a ton on pre-draft visits, a lot of tight ends, including one at Purdue. What's his name? Payne Durham. Yeah, he's an interesting prospect as well. So I'm going to go with tight end. Would you disagree or agree?
No, I think that's a good one. In fact, on our mock draft this morning on Broncos for Breakfast, Nick took a tight end with the first pick.
There you go.
So he took the Iowa tight end who could be sneaking up into the second round and got good value there. You want to say center is not all that thin. It's just not very good. I've got two players there that are about equal, but I don't really like either one of them. I mean, that's kind of an easy one. Offensive tackle, when you talk about thin, you're like, okay, what would one injury do to this team? Offensive tackle, that's a little scary. If you got McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles after that, not great. A sneaky one. If you go tight end, I'll go another position that's not really considered a value. I don't know how deep safety is, to be honest with you, Zack. I know we talk a lot about, and you and Chad talk a lot about Caden Stearns, almost penciling him in like he's just okay. And I'm not okay with that. I mean, he's got 5 starts in his career and he's coming off a big injury. He hasn't got enough of a sample size for me where I can just put his name on a lineup card and feel good about it. I don't know what I'm going to get there, if I'm going to get anything based on the past. Damari Mathis has played twice as many snaps as Caden Stearns to this point in his career. So that's a big question mark for me, is safety. But that was a great question, Adam. Appreciate it.
No, you are 100% right about Caden Stearns. A lot of unrealized potential. I'm just personally so hyped on what he can do based on the limited sample size that we've gotten from him. But you're right. That hip injury could be a career-threatening thing. Hopefully it's not, though. I could also add on, you mentioned Damari Mathis, cornerback. Because after Surtain, Mathis, K'Wan Williams, who do you really have back there? Sang Bassi and Jaquan McMillian. So I think the secondary as a whole is pretty thin.
And we have to force rank these things because the running back position is not overly deep. If Javonte Williams isn't there, we've been talking about needing a player there. You talk about the wide receiver room. You really only had 2 receivers last year that you could count on, and they battled some injuries as well. So depth isn't overly strong right now. Ironically, one of the deepest positions is probably also one where you could use another body, is edge. Edge might be the deepest position as far as players that you have that you can line up and go with. But your quarterback position is actually fairly deep now too. Jarrett Stidham is a good number 2. I feel a lot better about him going in and playing than I did last year with the guys that you had.
I just realized how freaking top-heavy the Broncos roster is, though. They're pretty good starter-wise, but they need help at a lot of areas, man.
Like I said, you start doing it, you really got to force rank it. And wanted to say hello to Patrick out in Hawaii. He says aloha to you. But Naj says, just the other side of this, I think the team is thinnest at edge. I may be paranoid, but I feel like we're wasting a solid secondary with a mediocre pass rush. And again, for me, it's how much is there a drop off from your starters to your second team? That's kind of what I think about when I think about depth. And you've got a lot of adequate. Mediocre might be exactly the word there, Naj. If Randy Gregory should be an alpha, he can be a legit number one. But if he's not, then you've got a bunch of guys. But you've got several of them, from Jacob Martin, guys you don't necessarily think about, Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning, Randy Gregory. There's 4 guys right there that can play in this league. So while you're not over the moon about any of those 4, you're, because of varying reasons. It could be health, could be talent, could be production. There's several of them there that can play.
How is Jacob Martin still on the roster? I don't understand that. He has like a $4 million cap hit. He was a throw-in last year after the Bradley Chubb trade. I don't understand that. But, maybe I'm a little contrarian. I don't see edge as a glaring need, like they have to take an edge player in the 3rd round. When you lose Bradley Chubb, you lose Randy Gregory, your pass rush is going to fall off. And I think I give that as a whole a big incomplete. Gregory has problems staying healthy, staying out of trouble. We understand that. But when he's on the field, he is dominant, in my opinion. He is alpha, and we saw that. Baron Browning, he has a lot of ceiling left to go. I think he could be a starter. Jonathan Cooper is a capable – you need a couple of players in there, but it's not like a DEFCON 1 situation in my book.
Yeah, I agree. As far as depth, I actually think the depth is okay at edge compared to, we just started rattling off all these other positions.
Yeah.
Running back, receiver, corner, safety, tight end. How about interior defensive linemen?
Sure.
There's the depth isn't great. I mean, there's not a ton of depth across the NFL. I mean, that they force these teams to, it's forced parity with the salary cap and rewards for losing games and those type of things. They do that on purpose. So you can't just keep stacking up players after players and they go to different places. So there's not great depth anywhere, but some places are a little scarier than others. Michaela Israel coming in with a super sticker. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here tonight. And Naj coming in today. We hit you once. We're going to hit you again. Naj, and great job, by the way. I didn't get to talk to you after the fact. You were awesome on the show on your superstar segment last Thursday night. So thanks for being here and thanks for being a big part of this community. It says, hey brother, who's happier today? Rodgers, Hackett, or the Jets fans? I think this is the trade George Payton wanted and thought he would get when he hired Hackett.
I'm so over this conversation already. I mean, Hackett's long gone. Rodgers doesn't play for Denver. Obviously, they have their quarterback. I'm happy the whole saga's over, Scott. I mean, I think both teams won. The Jets were a quarterback away from really competing, and the Packers got way more than I thought they would. Basically, 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for an aging quarterback who might have a year or 2 tops left as a elite level starter. So I think everyone's happier here, but I'm not going to be rooting for much of Hackett's success in the fall, especially when they come to Denver later this year.
I think it's a combination between the Jets fans and the Green Bay Packers fans are both really happy. For Rodgers and Hackett, it's a job, and they're hedging they won't get nearly as emotional. So to answer your question literally, Aaron Rodgers will be happy to have a fresh start. Hackett is coming off a disaster, and he'll be relieved, and he'll be happy to work with him again. But as far as jubilation, who's the happiest? The fans. The fans are the happiest. The Green Bay Packers fans were ready to move on, and they got a nice return for that trade. And the Jets fans are thinking, hey, we've got a great quarterback coming in. And they were a pretty good team last year, and their quarterback play was horrendous at times last year. So they got a major upgrade to what they had last year. And, the questions will start coming around. Can this help salvage Zach Wilson? I don't know. I don't care. I'll be interested in watching Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform next year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Jets fans, they haven't seen a title since man walked on the moon with Joe Willie Namath, and they're excited to hopefully get back there.
No way.
I think Rodgers is happy.
On the moon.
I think Rodgers is happy now, Scott, but until he meets that New York media for the first time, then there might not be enough psychedelics in the world to numb that pain.
But he's old enough, and I don't give a rat's behind anymore about him. That, it's not like he's going to be overwhelmed like a 25-year-old coming in there. He'll just be like, whatever, dude, I'm really rich and have had a great
I'm
career.
Aaron Rodgers.
And if you don't like it, I don't care. It might be perfect for it. You might be perfect for it. It'll drive the self-important New York media bananas, which will be, I'm here for that.
Same.
Zach Powers said, as a BFP listener, I could tell Scott took a few weeks off from coffee. Yeah, there's certain things that get me going, and I was really getting going the other day, last week. But Phil comes in with some stars, one of our superstar supporters for sure over on Facebook. Says, evening, Zach and Scott. Been reading that we are looking at Jack Coletto. What's the story on this guy? Zach, are those crickets? Are those clicking keyboards? He's
a linebacker and a fullback for Oregon State. I think the Broncos signed a fullback, number one, Michael Burton, they don't have a need there. I assume he's going to play linebacker at the next level, but inside linebacker, is that we didn't talk about that, Scott. Is that a glaring need for the Broncos? Is that a thin? Not really. You can get by on who you have there. So it all comes down, Phil, to how the board breaks, what players are still left when Coletto's on the board. And if he's BPA, then he's BPA.
6'3", 240, quarterback linebacker. So is this, is this legit, or is this just who's going to play Taysom Hill in this offense? Because if they did it one place, you've got to do the exact same things at the other place. That's what it feels like. To me, but just looking at stats, rushing 400 yards, career rushing, quarterback to linebacker. Boy, that is interesting though. I like it. I do like it. Played 12 games, scoring. I don't even see defense and fumbles, tackles, 27 tackles last year, fullback, possibly, maybe. But a UDFA, maybe an undrafted free agent. I don't think you're using a draft pick on him. If he comes in, maybe he's interesting. But to me, it sounds like someone trying to connect dots and saying who's going to be the Taysom Hill in this offense, because you can't run a Sean Payton offense unless you've got one of those. So I don't know. That one's kind of out of left field.
I'm sensing sarcasm, and if so, I agree with you, because they don't need a Taysom Hill. It's been such a popular talking point, who the Broncos going to draft to be the next Taysom. They don't need that. Sean Payton was trying to overcompensate for a declining Drew Brees, and then in the post-Drew Brees era, to try to move the ball. No different than the Wildcat offense with Ronnie Brown back in the day with the Miami Dolphins. You just constantly evolve, but you don't need a Taysom Hill. I think the Broncos, with a traditional offense and traditional players, they'll be just fine.
Yeah, and you're pigeonholing him in because you made a mistake in paying so much money to Taysom Hill. Good Lord, what a contract that was.
It's like 120 mil, wasn't it?
He was getting QB1 money, anyway, we'll move on. This isn't a Saint. I don't want Ernie to come after me. Broncos country only. Who I wouldn't mind coming after me though is Michaela. But she jokes, is this Eaters Anonymous? She says, hello, I'm Michaela and love food. Hello, Michaela. Welcome. Thanks for sharing. How about anybody been in one of those meetings might get that joke? How about the Aaron Rodgers trade? Why wouldn't the Packers accept ours last year? It was much more than they got now. We don't know that for sure. And, I don't know exactly what was offered. Now, did the Broncos send more to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson than what the Packers got from the Jets? I think it wasn't it? Yeah, it's conditional. Some of it's conditional based on how long he plays.
The Broncos traded 2 firsts and a second. Two firsts
and a second. But it wasn't 2 firsts and a second because it was
3 players.
It was a swap. This year swap 15 and 13. So it was just a first and a second, and then maybe some change in there.
I thought the second next year becomes a first if he plays like 65% of snaps.
Right. So it wasn't as much. There wasn't just 2 straight first because they got a first back because they just swapped places. They swapped 15 and 13.
I think the Broncos give up more. They give up players.
The Broncos sent a much bigger package to the Seahawks but there's a 6 or 7 year age difference there is one of the things, Michaela. And that's the big one for me. But why didn't they accept it? Maybe they weren't ready. Maybe he wasn't ready. And
bingo.
I don't know. That would be hopefully that will come out, because about the only place we're really going to hear that is from Aaron Rodgers one day. when he writes his biography or another one if he doesn't already have one. And thanks, Michaela. I'm not on here enough. You're only a nighttime person, and I don't get to see you enough to say thank you for everything you do for us at MHH. Keith Brugman says, Scott going to start talking about his MySpace page. I actually was working. The original iteration of Scout.com was bought by Fox Interactive Media, who bought MySpace within a month of each other. So we were all in the same building together out in California, and they lost. Facebook won that one. So,
well, be sure to link me, Scott. I want to add you as a top friend after the show.
Yeah, it was. I tell you what, their offices were moved into Beverly Hills, California, and being in the offices with the MySpace crew had some of its advantages. I'll just leave it at that one. As we roll down here, but George Fox comes in. He says, "Thanks for making it great to be a Broncos fan." Well, that's awfully flattering, George. I think Chad Jensen has built a hell of a enterprise with Mile High Huddle and gives you a variety of different content that hopefully you can find several things that you like, because there are many different voices on MHH, Zack.
There's enough for everyone. We're like Baskin Robbins, 23 flavors, is it, or something like that? 24. We have plenty. If you don't like chocolate, we have vanilla. If we have Rocky Road, we have mint. Just take your pick. 7 days a week, we have podcasts. We have we're doing everything we can, and it's because of people like you, George, and everybody else who tunes in that makes it possible.
Yep. So thank you very much. Just talking about some of what they got. The
31 flavors. Thank you, Keith.
The trade return. Why was it less? And the age was one thing, but Jesse comes in. He says 2 years. Rodgers is MVP. Last year he was bottom of the barrel, and this is where I like to say that relativity comes into play. Let's look at Aaron Rodgers' bottom of the barrel stats here. Let me look that up real quick, because again, his numbers have been so good that what you would consider bottom of the barrel, it's relative again. And last year in 17 games, he threw for 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns against 12 interceptions. So not, again, a big drop off from 37-4. Man, 37-4 and 48-5 the year before. So there was a big drop off there. So the demand wouldn't be as good. But with 37, where are you last year with 3,700 yards and 26 touchdowns? Where does that put the Denver Broncos?
A lot better than 5-12.
Playoffs.
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, probably in the playoffs.
And who was he throwing to, Scott? He had literally no one talent-wise on offense like he can get the ball to.
And I had those questions last year. I said the two teams I thought that were getting more hype than they should early on were Green Bay and Miami. And I think Miami played really well, kind of outdid expectations, but Green Bay kind of ended up where I thought they would. Their entire offensive strategy for the last 10 years seems to be, to hell with it. Aaron Rodgers will win it for us.
YOLO.
So that one's a little tough. Chad Beach coming in with some stars. Says Ian, Zack, and Scott. Oh, thank you, sir. Says, and Broncos country. That's all, y'all. Love the pod. Denver Broncos for life and MHH for life. And buck 'em. Keep up the good work. What position do you guys think we take with the first two picks?
Remember, I was talking about fatigue earlier. It's. I'm just so happy we'll know on Friday who the Broncos will be taking with those picks. I gotta think they'll go for the interior, the trenches. Sean Payton has talked about for months now the importance of building up the hog mollies up front, the offensive and defensive lines. He goes back to the Bill Parcells, foundation where you have to win in the trenches. That's where the game is decided. So I think they're going to grab a center and they're going to grab a defensive lineman in 67 and 68. Could be wrong though.
I think you're hoping one of those centers drops down to you again. For me, if I'm going to kind of flip this question around, Chad, and I mean Chad Beach. I did get that right on purpose. That's the Zack over here. What one position, if you got average to above average level of play, would improve the team the most besides quarterback? Because if you went from where you were last year at quarterback to above average play at quarterback, that improves your team the most. You're not changing your quarterback. You're locked in. You can make changes everywhere else. You're not changing your quarterback next year. So that one's kind of off the table. And for me, the answer becomes center. If I could get, and I've used this with saying, if I could get a top 5 player at any position, where would he help the most? If I could get a top 5 center and drop him into this team, I think that would probably improve this team the most. Now, you can argue edge or opposite corner or wide receiver, but for me, you can't say anything on offense because your offense doesn't matter when you're getting blown up right up the middle of your line of scrimmage, like you've been the last 2 years that I've been watching this team. When your center is giving your quarterback lap dances off the snap, nothing else matters. I don't care. We start talking schemes and backup tackles and should this guy be playing here? And what about when Tim Patrick's? I don't care. What about Russell Wilson? It's tough to get a read on Russell Wilson when your offensive line is getting blown up. So improve that, and then let's get a look. Then we can get an honest evaluation. So I'd like it to be one of the centers, but if he's not there, he's not there. The worst thing you can do is reach. Don't reach, because getting guys that can't play kill your team, and that's how you end up with them, is when you reach for them. You're muted. You muted yourself.
I was in the middle of telling a good joke too. I was saying a Lloyd Cushenberry lap dance, not a lap dance I prefer. So I'll try to scrub that from my memory. But you're 100% right. They were getting blown back constantly. They were in Russell Wilson's face. He had nowhere to go. If Joe Tippmann falls to 67, I am running that draft card up to the podium.
Even late 50s. If you're sitting there at 55, you're itching a little bit. You're like, you know what? I'm going to send a 2024 fourth rounder and 67 and see if I can move up and grab this guy. Taylor Cruisin says, hey, Zack and Scott, could we get a good undrafted free agent? Yes. No, it's tough. There's early impact guys, but it's hard for seventh rounders to even really make the team if they weren't so cheap. Sometimes you can get better undrafted free agents because they can kind of pick and choose. For the player itself, it's actually better to be a UDFA than it is to be a draft pick, because you can choose a situation that you think is best for you. But they're out there, but it is hard. It is tough to get one, but not impossible. That's for sure.
We mentioned one already. If he might be in the chat, I don't know if it's a troll or impersonator, but if Aidan O'Connell does become a UDFA and the Broncos are sniffing around, then there you go. But they do have, historically, the Broncos, whether it's Elway or George Payton, they do have luck finding someone in the 8th round. So I think you will get someone of a decent value.
Gary Palmer comes in and he asks, hey, Zack and Scott, are you guys going to do a mock? No pressure. Go Broncos. I'm always down for doing a mock draft. That'd be up to this guy over here. So
that way.
What do you think?
We could do a mock really quickly if you want, but we have the roundtable taking place, the MHH roundtable taking place tomorrow night on Building the Broncos, Gary. So if you want to tune into a more in-depth mock draft, you can tune into that, but we can do a quick one if you want.
Yeah. Last 10 minutes or so, we can go through. Let me catch up on the chat. There's some super chats coming in and I usually have them queued up. So holy cow. Hey, I heard y'all were talking about me. Oh, why does something tell me if I click on that profile, it's going to have created today?
Let's find out.
Let me just call it a hit. Let me see. So that would be my guess. Michaela Parker coming in red hot pink. So they basically first round this year. They basically got a second and turned into a first. A-Rod for a second. Heck yeah. Yeah, that's a good deal. And I think the Packers are pretty happy with what they got in return. A lot of the Packers fans were ready to move on. Aaron Rodgers is, y'all know how it is. Maybe not quite as much because you've actually won championships, but I watched something similar go along with Matt Ryan. And the longer you're at a place where you end up not winning at all, the less and less support you get. When you are in front of the media as often as Aaron Rodgers is, it gets tiresome. And I know they were ready to move on and pretty happy that they're getting a pretty good return out of it, like a big return like we got from you, Michaela.
Yeah, thank you, Michaela. And you're right, Scott. I think Rodgers was ready to leave. I think he was desperate to leave. I think the Jets were desperate to acquire him. And when you have desperate people making deals, desperate things happen. So it was a good deal for the Packers to net what they did for a 39-year-old, 40-year-old quarterback, and a good deal for the Jets who overpaid, but not egregiously overpaid.
Yeah, it should be a good deal for everybody. And it's not – it was such a bad move for Zach Wilson. Can he be salvaged? We'll see. we'll see. That becomes a big question there.
The answer is no.
I don't think so either. I just, you don't want to give up. It's been 2 years. The one that just kind of bothers me a little bit is like, and I'm hearing that we could get Trey Lance for a 4th round pick. Should we do it? I'm like, the 49ers going to go from 3 first rounders to a 4th in a season, and in this short of time. I just don't see it. I don't see it. So that would be a little bit of a surprise to me. And I mean, you could get more for Zach Wilson right now, and Trey Lance. Zach Wilson was so bad. And the thing that scared me to death about Zach Wilson watching him is he was the worst when he had the most time. That's a bad combination. When he was decent was when he was on the run and just trying to create something and kind of let his natural talent take over, because he's pretty mobile. He's got a really good arm. But when he had time to scan and read, he was horrendous. And that's a scary thought in the NFL.
The jury is very much still out on Trey Lance, who I loved coming out of college. I think his potential is really, really high. I agree with you. I don't think the Niners would, settle for a mid-round pick on a guy they invested so much in. The jury is not, to me, still out on Zach Wilson. I'm ready to use the B word. I was a fan of his as well, but you either have it or you don't, and I don't think Zach Wilson has it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think he's going to be a big B with a bust. And that was such a good draft too. I put up the 1989 draft. The 1989 draft was kind of helped. And I wasn't exaggerating. It kind of helped shape my life. I was 16 years old in 89 when the top 5 picks in the draft were Troy Aikman. Number 2 was Tony Mandarich, the incredible bulk. You can look him up on the internet because it's the only place you would ever hear from him. Number 3 was Barry Sanders. Number 4 was Derek Thomas. And number 5 was Deion Sanders.
Ooh,
it's 4 Hall of Famers in your first 5 picks. And it kind of helped shape. I'm like, wow, this draft stuff's really cool. I really want to keep following this stuff. And I did. I started following the draft and doing all those things. The draft 2 years ago may not end up being that good, but there's some players in there, y'all. You got Jamar Chase, you got Patrick Surtain, you got Micah Parsons, Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Pitts could end up being something. And then you're going to have that big asterisk that says, who the hell's Zach Wilson? That's unfortunately what it's going to look at. But Phil comes in with some stars, and he asks, hey, guys, at 67, these guys are available. Who do you pick? Hendon Hooker, Steve Avila, or Jahmyr Gibbs? That's quarterback Tennessee, offensive guard TCU, or running back Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, I'm ruling out Hooker. I don't think you take a quarterback that early when you paid 2 already, including Stidham, who Sean Payton handpicked as well. Gibbs is certainly, a lot of teams I read have him as RB1 because if you use him the right way, he can be a true game changer for you. So he'd be tempting, but do you need Jahmyr Gibbs on the roster? I don't know. Javonte will come back. You have P. Ryan. You have Tony Jones, some other young players. Avila, though, he's a guy at a position of need. And you can argue the Broncos don't need a starting guard, but one injury, and who do you have? If Quinn Miners or Ben Powers goes down, who do you really have? If you take Avila, on top of that, you can maybe kick Miners over to center and fill 2 positions with 1 stone. So gun in my head, it'd be tempting to take Gibbs, but I think my brain would settle for Avila.
The player that helps your team the most earliest is probably Jahmyr Gibbs. Steve Avila coming in. He gives you some options at center as well. Maybe you can work him in there. As far as value, I might go Hendon Hooker just because a quarterback there, these guys are all in the same range. If I wanted to move on from him, maybe I could flip him to trade. The answer on this, Phil, is I don't think any one of those 3 are going to be available. So it becomes real easy. I think Steve Avila goes, I think all 3 of those guys have a chance to go in top 50. Seeing them drop down another 20 spots, I think is going to be a little surprising for me.
Yeah, let me amend that by saying if Hendon Hooker is still there, if I'm George Payton, I am scouring the rest of the league. And if a team is desperate enough to trade up to get Hooker, okay, give me what you got.
Yep.
Give me your best offer.
Yeah, I might take him and then try and trade him again anyway. Because you've got shorter time frames. What is it, 5 minutes by the time you get to that right into the 3rd round, maybe 7 minutes. You take him, and then you take him in the 3rd on Friday, and then by Saturday you hear, oh, there's been a trade. Where they moved on from Hendon Hooker. But I don't think any of those guys are going to be there. So I'm happy to do a mock draft. We're at 40 minutes. These things take longer than you think because we end up getting a little long-winded on these, Zach.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let me, we'll go 7 rounds. Let me share my screen over here. Let me slide over just a little bit. I go present, share screen, entire screen this size. I already had a tab open with the simulator on. Imagine that. All rounds. Where are them Broncos? Here, 67. And I like to go to the public board a little bit more just because I think it comes up as more of a consensus that way. Care for positional value, yes, because it does matter. Draft for needs matters less. Randomness, sure, why not? 7, I got them. Let's hit enter draft, and we'll go ahead and we'll hit start. And if only it would seem this fast when we're on the clock that quickly. And look who went at 66, Luke Weipler. Cedric Tillman, a good wide receiver. The depth in this class, there's some really good corners that could be available. Tight end could be available as well. Interior lineman, it gets a little bit dicey as you go a little bit farther down. There's Tippmann at 55. That was who we just talked about. If he's still available in the 50s, I'm talking about maybe making a trade up. And I don't mind using a pick from next year in order to do it. So if he falls that far, I become really, really interested. Charbonnet, I can just scroll down through see and see if there's any of these names that stick out to you. Matthew Bergeron, talking about some versatile offensive linemen. Darius Rush is a cornerback that was a standout at the Senior Bowl that I really like. Rashee Rice, wide receiver. Tucker Kraft, Marvin Mims. So there's going to be some names that went just ahead of this spot because there's guys that I'm looking for that aren't here. And there you go. Like John Michael Schmitz, BJ Ojolari, Luke Musgrave, tight end. Sam Laporte to Iowa. That's who we took this morning. Keanu Benton, a big interior defensive lineman from Wisconsin. Really good player. Joe Tippmann, Jalen Hyatt, really good wide receiver. So there were some guys that went in there that came off the board a little early. We get 2 picks back to back, though. That's the thing that becomes real interesting, Zach.
Well, it is true. Yeah, we don't have to worry about players falling off the draft board. I don't know, Scott. I'm kind of torn right now. I like Charbonnet a lot. The Broncos love Rashee Rice. They've worked him out at every stop in the pre-draft process. I like Isaiah Foskey as well. I can never pronounce that correctly. But Charbonnet, the tackle, Marvin Mims as well at receiver. I think Mims, in my opinion, receiver is a little too early. It's a little too early for that. So, probably Bergeron or Charbonnet. What do you think?
You don't even have to choose. You can take them both. Real quick, I want to hit Michaelish says, are we having a draft day party? This channel will be live for the entire draft. So that would be the party if you want to come in and have it. Well, I'm not going to be here. I don't know that Zach's going to be here, but Nick will be here. I think Lance and Eric will be here a lot. But while the draft is on, Mile High Huddle will be live. We don't have to choose. That's the nice thing about doing this right here. We can take Zack Charbonnet at 67, and then you can take Bergeron as well. A couple of the players, if I was your scout and you're the GM, that I would be pushing you for are Darius Rush, a cornerback that I'd love. He was at the Senior Bowl and was sticky. Played really well and then goes out and runs like a 4.36 with 6 foot tall. Really good player. Another one that I love and I think people are starting to catch up on is Jonathan Mingo. He's a 6'2", 225-pound, 4.46 guy. And I like the copycat league. He reminds me of the way he moves and the body type of a Cordero Patterson and a Deebo Samuel. Get him the ball in the backfield, swing it out and let him take on cornerbacks, and he's gonna punish some people. But
Corey Trice as well. I like
a really good corner too. Like I said, there's corners available here. If you decide, hey, I wanted to go corner,
let's go Rush.
If I flip this to cornerback, there's several guys here I'd be pretty happy with. From Rush, Trice, Garrett Williams is a guy I've seen linked with the Broncos a lot. Riley Moss maybe a little bit later. But I'm okay with going. We say that the Broncos have ignored developing offensive linemen for too long, and here's a pretty good one right here in Matthew Bergeron.
Let's go for it.
Okay.
No more excuses anymore. Enter Mike McGlinchey. Enter Matthew Bergeron.
But 108, Corey Trice went just a few picks earlier. Big
Yeah.
defensive lineman. There's two Byron Youngs from the SEC. There's an edge and there's an interior guy. The interior guy is from Alabama. He goes 3 bills, and the Tennessee guy is about 260. There's a couple guys I like here as well. I like this guy coming in. Somehow, I apologize. I'm not nearly as cool as Chad. I can't tell you. If I said I miss your Musk to a man, I'd probably break out in an embarrassed sweat. I can't pull off the joke. Just can't do it. So, hope you're having a good night, Chad. Appreciate you coming in with a super, helping to keep the lights on and keep my forehead nice and shiny. And this space is for rent, everybody. So, I am for sale. So thank you, Chad. And thanks for letting me fill in for you tonight.
Such a Chadism, isn't it? Just hopping in with the super saying, I miss your Musk. We miss your Musk too, Chad.
Some good players in here. A guy that here, how much have you seen of Carl Brooks, if anything?
A little bit.
All right. Well, let me see if I can bring this up without killing a computer or something. I've got all my video on another hard drive, but it's not a solid state, so it takes a second to spin up when it's been sleeping for a while. So Carl Brooks becomes real interesting to me. This was Senior Bowl, interior lineman. Watch the get off that he's got. Look at that swim move. Look at the hands. I mean, it's a double swim move. That play is over. I'm sold right there on that play alone, just with the quickness that he has. And he's coming in, interior defensive lineman from Bowling Green, I believe. That doesn't quite sound right. And now I can't find him. I wanted to look up his stats. Carl.
I think
what if I deleted him by accident? I think I deleted him from my I deleted the row he was in at the combine.
I think the simulator had him listed as an edge.
Yeah, but I've got a spreadsheet with all the combine results, and I may have deleted it by mistake. Anyway, but he had a good day at the combine too. Someone definitely to keep an eye on. Someone asked about Hendon Hooker. Is he available? I would say no. Dorian Thompson, Jay Kaner, Clayton Tune. It starts getting real thin. And Ryan Powell says Bowling Green. It is Bowling Green. He's off my spreadsheet for some reason. I must have meant to hit a Control X or a Control V and deleted it and saved it. I'll have to add him back in there. I thought he was at Bowling Green. Who's available at center? That is a good question coming in from Jesse. I think we've missed on the guys that we wanted, honestly. And there's a guy I like at center that's kind of my cheat code, but he's way down here, Emil Ekiyor. I think we got a chance to get him with our next pick, if that's a direction we wanted to go.
What do you think about Voorhees?
I'm not all that impressed with him, and he's coming off a knee injury. So yeah. I think this is about where you're interested if he hadn't hurt his knee. It's almost like he started getting more talk after he hurt his knee than beforehand. It's like, oh, that really, really hurt him. No, he wasn't that high a prospect to begin with. So not for me. And of all people, you should be tired of picking up guys with injury history.
I am. I was just thinking of drafting him and stashing him for next year, but you're right.
Todd Osendorf says come in and need edge. Yeah, you do. And it's real hard to get one this late. Carl Brooks is not an edge. Byron Young is interesting. You're looking, the guys that are super productive and super athletic are gone. By the time you're picking 67, they're gone. Those are first round guys. You're looking for traits. Byron Young is big and he's fast. He's 25 years old and not all that productive. Why not? Those are the questions I have. If I get an answer to that question that I'm satisfied with, I'm okay here. Carl Brooks is an interior guy. He's pushing 3 bills. KJ Henry doesn't excite me all that much. He's just kind of meh. Andre Carter got his ass kicked at Senior Bowl. He was way out of his depth, and he didn't test like what we were expecting when he got there. Lonnie Phelps is a good, nice, quick guy, but this is too early for him. So again, if you saw an edge you loved in the first couple rounds with your first 2 picks, that's where you got to go. But it's and no, I think Yaya's gone, Jesse, because he would have been Yaya Diaby was my cheat code. People are picking up on Yaya Diaby. He is an edge out of Louisville that I absolutely love. High motor, hell of an athlete. And he's going sooner than he was. Used to be able to pick him up as a cheat in like 150.
Watching Brooks, it's a lot more like Draymond Jones than an edge player. I wouldn't mind, but if we're going edge here, I think Byron Young, I want to say the Broncos have expressed interest in him throughout the pre-draft process. I might be wrong, but let's just go with him to fill that need and live to fight another round.
Yeah, he was mocked by one of the big mock guys, whether it was Daniel Jeremiah or Jordan Reed or the Kuiper McShay group had Byron Young going to the Broncos. And
Maybe
it makes
that's
sense.
what I was thinking of.
It makes sense here.
Yeah.
So what was interesting to me is kind of the knock on him is that he wasn't quite good on the edge, but he was a really explosive athlete. And I'm watching him. I'm like, he's actually decent on the edge, and he's not as explosive as his measurables you might think they are. So why not? Again, those are the questions I have. Round 5. Oh man, there he goes. See, when I switch it over to average draft position, some of my cheat codes like Emil Ekiyor get taken. He'd be a really good player to take. When you get down to 139, you're just looking for somebody that can make a difference. If we hadn't already taken Zach Charbonnet, I might have pushed for Chase Brown here, the Illinois running back. Really good player. Sometimes you can get better talent at positions of non-value because they weren't taken higher because they're positions of non-value. So I can look at guards, I can look at tight ends, I can look at safeties, I can look at running backs, and I can get a pretty good player in those positions later on in the rounds. There's Voorhees again, worth a pick. Oluolu's okay. I would have rather have had Emil Ekiyor, but Oluolu is a decent center prospect. He played there at the Senior Bowl. Anybody here you're looking for, Zach?
Sean Tucker is really impressive. We took Charbonnet already, but Sean Tucker I do like a lot. He had his pro day today. I think he did like 29 bench press reps at 5'10". The guy is a freaking tank, but you got to address the interior line here. Juice Scruggs, what a great name out of Penn State. I'm okay going Oluwatimi.
Just Oluolu.
Oluolu. Okay, let's do it.
Oluolu. It's just like the kid from Northwestern is Ade. I don't mind taking this one here. And again, this is why I don't like taking running backs that high. I've got a big discussion going on. Bijan Robinson, where do you take him? I'm like, you can get good running backs in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Why do I want to spend a first rounder on a running back? And a question that just came in, Steven asks, when will the schedule for 2023 come out? I think that comes out, it was like May 7th to 11th, somewhere in that neighborhood last year. I looked it up. So in a few weeks, and after that, we will talk about the meet and greet that we will have. So that will come to. Colby Wooden's okay. Mitchell, Gaines tested really well out of UCLA. Let me look that one up because if I remember right, John Gaines, 6'4", 303, 34-inch arms, 5'01", 40, 4.45 shuttle. My goodness, 7'3" L cone, 32.5-inch vertical leap. I'd be interested in this guy just purely for the athletic traits that he has that I can get in the 5th. I'd rather have him at the athlete over someone like Oluolu.
Let's do it.
All right, there we go.
Dressing needs, one need at a time.
And they did put center there. I feel like they didn't have center there before as far as needs went. I feel like that's a recent addition. And then with our final pick, we're just looking for players. Interior line, Jarrett Clark's a good player. I just think he was a little out of shape, but you're in the 6th round here.
Durham.
Goodness, how did he fall that far? I think we're done here.
Yeah, let's go. That's it.
Payne Durham.
That's great value.
Payne Durham fell all the way this far, and I'm taking him. Let me show you. Payne Durham is a big athletic target. I'm going to show you some Payne Durham video while that thing is doing the PFS simulator is doing its thing. Some of y'all have seen this before. I've got it on my YouTube channel. We'll come back to this draft so momentarily, and it doesn't tell me which is which. I've already watched that one, so I'm big target. Just come out here on a little circle route and then throw it up. Big guys are always open. And I like what they did at the Senior Bowl. He looks out for his offensive line. No, not you. Give it to that guy. Boom. Just look at the catch radius on someone like this and tell me you wouldn't love to be able to throw. Here his lineup is a big slot. Look at the catch radius on Payne Durham. And then who's going to want to hit that guy? When he's coming in. He came into the combine 6'5" and 5/8, 253, 4.87. Which is at 260 pounds is plenty, with a 35-inch vertical leap, with a catch radius like that, and just burying guys,
blocking out of the backfield too.
Yeah, and just burying guys. He's coming out of the slot here again. Sixth round. That becomes real easy for me.
You put him, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick on the field together in the red zone. I mean, good luck stopping that. That's a great value pick, I believe, for Denver.
Yeah. So we got a decent grade from them. Let's see what they give us overall. B+. The Zack Kelberman pick got an A-. Matthew Bergeron B+. Byron Young A-. John Gaines was a C-. I'm okay with that. And Payne Durham as an A pick. Where's he? He ranks 174 on the big board, and we got him at 195. Again, this is the last time I think you're going to have to do this, Zach.
Yeah, but if it's the last time, we ended on a good note.
I think you did. So we're at 56 minutes already, my friend. So it's about time to call it a night.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to miss the mock draft season?
No, not at all. And Michael Kerr is saying he looks mad slow, but this is the thing, Michael. George Payton. Sean Payton likes his tight ends. I think Mike Kliss put it best today or yesterday on Twitter. In shorts and curly hair, the Greg Dulcich, it's good on paper, but it's not the nitty-gritty type of tight end that Sean Payton likes. He likes the hand in the dirt, the Chris Manhertz types, the big blocking, extra offensive line types, and that's what Durham could be. So if they go with that pick, I would not hate it at all.
No, and again, when you're 260 pounds, 4.8 fast enough. Would I love him to be running 4.6s? Sure. But again, I don't need him to get 40 yards downfield. I just need him 6 yards downfield and find him and let somebody try and bring 260 pounds of Payne Durham down while he drags him for a first down. You need that guy that can move the chains. You need we hear him talk about the safety blanket. Who's the safety blanket in this offense? Who am I looking for when it's 3rd and 6 and something breaks down? The 6'6" guy in the middle with a catching radius that's like a pterodactyl. In the 6th, yeah, I'm not saying he's coming in and he's going to set the world on fire, but in the 6th round, pretty happy with that type of value.
Yeah, if that was the last mock draft pick I had to make before the actual draft, I'm very happy with that pick. So that was a special edition of the MHH podcast featuring our producer, Scott Kennedy. If you're not doing so, follow us on Twitter at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, myself at Kelberman NFL, and the aforementioned Scott at Scout Kennedy. Note the difference there. If you haven't, go to mhhmerch.com and check out some of our wide-ranging inventory featuring Buckham merchandise and so on and so forth. And also go to facebook.com/Mile Huddle Pod. Be sure you're liking that page and following that page. On Instagram, if you're there, follow us at mile_high_huddle. And if you haven't, go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest and our Deacon Scott a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Just like Michael Ranquillo coming in with 5,000 stars to close us out on the night. Big stars. It shows up. But when it's StreamYard does a good job with this, but they do a better job of showing YouTube than they do Facebook. And we get all kinds of graphics and stuff on Facebook. The Facebook users know what Michael Ranquillo just did. I want everybody else to know what he just did for us too, which is coming in with 5,000 stars. Thank you. I will quote Chad here by saying you're a prince, and you mean a lot to us in this community. So thank you so much, Michael.
And we always enjoy your musk, Michael, so definitely appreciate it. Any last words, Scott?
That was it. I wanted to make sure before you signed us out, I wanted to say thank you to Michael. We will be back. Nick and I will be back tomorrow morning on Broncos for Breakfast. We'll run another one of these. We'll run another mock. It's we've only got a few more days to just get all the blood we can out of that stone before the draft comes out. So thanks for having me tonight. Thank you, MHH family. I enjoyed being here this evening on the MHH pod.
And if you want to tune into the annual War Room MHH mock draft, it's happening tomorrow night on the Building the Broncos. You'll see your favorite draft analysts there. Will, meaning Chad and I believe, will be back on Thursday night, same time, same place. We'll see you there.
That's the draft, dude.
Oh, we will be there then. So we'll see you then.
Yeah, you'll be there. You'll be there for
the Broncos don't have a first-round pick. I don't even think it starts Thursday in my mind. To me, it starts Friday and ends Saturday. So we'll see you on draft night on Thursday. Take care. And as always, come on, Scott, go Broncos.